Right now on Tech Radio, Commission Naman, the big tech. Ding, ding, round one.
Hi, I'm Artemis. I am a computer-generated AI voice, and you're listening to Tech Radio.
Every week online, we bring you the latest in tech from Ireland and across the world. You're welcome to episode 1115 with Big Tech going in front of Commission Naman here in Ireland. More on Musk and OpenAI and an EU alternative social network. Plus, our guest, the director of the Tech Found Her Summit, Maureen Murray, chats with us about the challenges of getting more women involved in the business of technology.
From techcentral.ie, this is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
My name's Dusty. Joining me as always, our editor-in-chief at Tech Central Towers, Niall Kitson. Niall, quick story just before we get into dark patterns and Meta and Commission Naman and that whole thing. Congratulations to a bunch of leash kids, all right? What have a bunch of leash kids got to do with the world of technology, especially when you consider that they're between 9 and 12 years of age, all right? They've only gone to America and won a World Robot Award.
Wow. I'm impressed.
11 kids. All under 12 years of age. They're from Rosenalice National School and they call themselves like a RNS team or something like that, whichever. But they went there. Robots is the teacher's thing. The kids are all into it. They got into the finals, and because they got into the finals, they went, oh my God, we've got to go. They raised $100,000 for the entire class to go to the event. I mean, that's an achievement in itself, right?
Amazing.
But it is amazing. But the event was the VEX Robotics World Championships. They were held in Missouri, and it's all about designing and building and programming robots to compete in head-to-head matches, and they did extremely well. They got the Engineering Division Judges Award, so a bravo to them, and a letter, I believe, from President Connolly.
I'm blown away in the best way possible. That is fantastic news.
Well, I'll give you a little side story on president letters.
Go on.
If you know somebody who's over 100, generally you can write to the president's office and say, could you send this person who's over 100 a letter of congratulations? So I had an elderly relative hit that mark, sent off the thing, and they said, yes, be delighted to do it. The letter came out and I was like, isn't that amazing? You got a letter from Michael D. Higgins. And I don't like that fecker. It's like, why did I go to the trouble?
Oh God, this is the majesty of growing old. You've got to look forward to this.
Do you know what? I can't wait to be an old person, and I'll just be cantankerous and cranky all day, and more for my own amusement more than anything else. But anyway, listen, let's get into tech news. So Meta and dark patterns. Can you explain to me, or are you able to explain to me what a dark pattern is?
You have actually zoomed in on this story much closer than you need to, because this isn't just a case of Meta being in trouble, right? And we'll dive into what a dark pattern is a little bit later. But basically, this is the first public meeting of Meta, TikTok, Snap, Google, and Microsoft. They're all going in front of the Oireachtas Committee on Children and Equality.
Okay. Right. And I should say that is happening as we are recording. So we'll have updates on the website at techcentral.ie. Go on.
And this is the Oireachtas sort of getting to know you mission, formal presentations, triggered by the X scandal earlier this year. Where notification apps were being used. That's kind of what kicked this off in earnest. Noticeable by their absence is X, who I don't even think they responded to the invitation. I mean, there's no legal basis for it. Nothing's going to happen to them if they don't show up. So they're not showing up. So that's what's happening today. Now. Also happening, and this is what you're interested in, are two investigations Commission Naman is running into Meta, and they're both to do with the Digital Services Act, right? And the Digital Services Act is all about protecting users' that are using online platforms. There's also the Digital Markets Act, which is about making sure that, platforms can be, used and engaged with by other companies. That if you see something on iOS and you go, hey, I've got an idea for something iOS does, how about we try this? And that's what the Digital Markets Act is all about. Facilitation. So what CNN is looking for with Facebook is dark patterns, right? And this is basically patterns of behavior that the website is using that you have not specified that it is appropriate for them to use. Right.
So basically what you're saying is that it's designed in such a way so that you will do something you didn't really want to, or designed in such a way so that you can't find the thing that it is that you want.
Yeah. So basically, your feed is informed by I have liked or I like, because I've told Facebook this, XYZ, right? Maybe you start getting funneled towards something called W, and you don't know why. Because there's nothing in your likes or in your history that would suggest you like W, and yet you're still being directed off, and that's kind of at the heart of what's happening. So that's part one. The other investigation is whether Facebook and Instagram, whether their interfaces deceive or manipulate users away from choosing a recommender feed that is not based on profile of their personal data.
I get it, and I think they are guilty as hell. All right, and I'll give you a very simple example. Right, I don't use Facebook as much anymore. All right, so I'm on twice a year, 3 times a year, and because I knew we were doing the story, I just logged in on my phone last night, and I was looking for post updates from just my friends. Do you think I could find that?
No, your feed is just full of stuff.
I couldn't find it. And I was looking through the settings, and where do I find it? That I just wanted to see post updates from people that I've connected with, or friends, whatever way you want to call them. Could not find it. And I'm a nerd. There we go. Pregnant pause. Niall is shocked. I don't know if it's because I don't have any friends on Facebook, or I just describe myself as a nerd, or both.
Here's the thing, right? According, thanks to Europe, Facebook has to make it easy for people to select options determining what is presented to them and how, right? Meta has said, look, we've added chronological options for stories and reels. You've got the option to, you've got alternative targeted feeds. You've got these other things, and some things are just not possible for us to prepare, which we know is a load of nonsense. However, in relation to today's Oireachtas meeting, Freddie Cook from Snapchat said that Snap users will see real value and stronger age-appropriate design requirements and robust oversight of how platforms mitigate the highest risk harms. At the same time, and here we go, legislation cannot do everything. Well-resourced education, youth services, and mental health services are vital to supporting teen self-esteem and to responding when harm occurs. So it's not just, hey, it's not just us, it's also you. So I think that's a very polite way of pushing back. And I think it's something we're going to see replicated. In New Mexico, Facebook were saying, sorry, we just can't do what you want us to do. And over here, Snap have said, yeah, what you want us to do isn't the full story. And you know what? I think Snap has a point. When you underinvest in services that help people, which, as we know, is a severe problem in Ireland, this is the kind of thing that's going to happen, right? So if you are not building out the appropriate services for people who need support, Snap cannot be held accountable for everything. But how cool would it be if Snap were to step up and go, do you know what? We're going to invest in our own mental health services. We're going to build things out for young people. We're going to, do a public-private partnership with the Department of Health. How cool would that be?
Yeah, getting away from Lord of the Rings level fantasy there, Niall, and back to reality. Hello. What do you think? What's your opinion on Commission Man? Because I think this is an important case for Ireland, and particularly Commission Man, now that it has got Meta and social media under its thing. And because we've had all of these cases with Europe who are kind of looking at us going, now come on, Ireland, you're not pulling your weight. You're a pushover when it comes to big tech. Do you think Commission Man is going to actually have any teeth with this?
This is their chance to show it. Their remit is the Digital Services Act. It's effectively content in this investigation. The DSA actually has teeth attached to it in much the same way that GDPR does. I think it's 6% of global turnover. So that is not to be sniffed at. Will they actually do this? Will they actually clamp down and say, do you know what? You've put your users at risk. This is, you've got to pay for it, because that's the only language big tech understands. I think if they chicken out of this, that's it for Commission Man. That's it. I mean, you've only got one chance to make a first impression. This is their chance to make a proper first impression, and I can't see it happening. I mean, we've had a Office of the Data Protection Commissioner that went to bat for Facebook in Europe. I mean, come on, like that was a big moment for the DPC in Europe. One that was overruled, and Facebook was fined appropriately. This is Ireland does not have a good rep in Europe for enforcing GDPR, the Data Protection Act. In enforcing GDPR, and hopefully, I mean, this is the big chance. Do we get trusted as the one-stop shop for the Digital Services Act, Digital Markets Act? I'm hoping it does, but I mean, all it takes is for one of the main big tech companies to look around and go, nice economy you got here. Shame if something happened to it.
Oh, please. I'm going to print that statement on the wall. just see. Well, we keep an eye on that. As I say, that is a developing story as we are recording the podcast, and Niall will keep everybody updated on the website at techcentral.ie. Kind of in a similar vein, we have a big pushback across the EU at the moment against American tech, where I think France are dropping Microsoft Teams? They're not using that. They're going to go for something more homegrown and stuff like that. And now there is an EU alternative to Facebook on the way. Pray tell. A European alternative to Facebook. Okay. Because nobody likes official fun.
Hey, kids. Come join our government-sanctioned social network. So we have a Romanian company is setting up a social network called EU. Small e, capital Y-O-U. Very nice. Country within the EU, so that's quite nice. And the idea is that it's not just a social network, it's a safer social network, right? It's one that puts a premium on protecting users, making sure platforms are governed responsibly, and that relies on not relying on algorithms that fuel distraction or create echo chambers or spread misinformation or disinformation. And they reckon they can do that through the use of AI and actual fact checking. Who knew? Actual fact checking. Oh my God. That sounds like there could be European intervention, human intervention. And if there is, they are in trouble straight away. I mean, if you set this up from the start, to have a dedicated fact checking team, then it's okay. It's baked into the formula. If you're somebody like Facebook or X that brings it in and they look at the bottom line and they go, well, this is actually costing us money, of course they're going to cut it, which is what they did. So if it's a feature, which in Europe it will be seen as, that's a good thing. If it's a flaw, which is what it was seen as in America, well, it was on borrowed time anyway. So there you go.
Moving on, there's an interesting story. You know that I'm very into the verifying age. Sorry, as in I'm not into it, but I'm just
You follow the story.
I'm following the story. I'm not particularly keen on it and how they are going to go about doing it. An interesting story about Pornhub are going to unblock users if they verify their age with iPhone. All right. And I actually think this in a way, it's kind of clever because for a little while now, Apple has required its users to verify if they're over 18, just if they want to access certain things or they want to do certain things on the phone or whatever. All right. And the way that they do it is by registering a credit card, because you have to be over 18 to hold a credit card, or you can do your government ID or whatever. All right. But I like the idea in some ways that it's kind of like a middle person, as in like Apple or Google or whatever. And it's just a simple ID that says, or some kind of a check or something like that, that just says over 18, yes or no.
Yeah. Yeah.
No gender, no location, no IP, no nothing. It's just yes or no. And tying it in with your device is kind of a good idea. But then again, I'm getting absolutely driven nuts with websites saying, oh, just check that code on your phone or open your authenticator app and put in the code with your phone. It's like, I don't want my phone beside me. I'm trying to wheel myself off it, like, you know. But I thought that was interesting. A good little story out this week that Pornhub will unblock it if you verify your age with iPhone. And this is something that Apple asks you to do anyway. So that's interesting. Let's get back to court cases because they're always fun. What about Elon Musk? We were talking about him last week and his case against OpenAI. What could happen if he wins?
Well, this is a philosophical question. The case began last week. Elon Musk gave his testimony over, I think it was, of course, 5 days or something. It was incredibly detailed. And it is now the case of, it's now OpenAI are sort of, they're in the dock, if you will. As we know, the case is, Musk said that he bankrolled OpenAI to the tune of $38 million in the belief that this would be a non-profit, that this was all about the mission. As you say, when it comes to Elon Musk, he's about the mission. And the mission in this case was the development of artificial intelligence with, I suppose a signpost down the road towards artificial general intelligence. That's what he signed up for. That's what he believed in. Down the road, OpenAI said, or rather OpenAI's sort of figurehead, I suppose. Sam Altman said, you know what, we're actually going to pivot from a non-profit to a profit. And, there's money to be made in that they're AI. At which point, a war of egos, I suppose, erupted between Altman and Musk. And Musk's case is that OpenAI deviated from the mission and effectively stole from him by changing their plan from non-profit to for-profit. That basically they swindled him out of $38 million, ultimately. Now, Musk's line, and he said, the lawsuit is very simple. It is not okay to steal from a charity. That's it. He's looking for $134 billion in damages. Kalshi, the futures market, put his chance of winning at about 37%. It's not great. Where I think the case is, I think it's irrelevant whether he wins the case or not. This is pure lawfare, and this is about there being room for only one visionary in big tech, and that is Elon Musk. None of this Sam Altman stuff. None of that. Musk wants to be seen as the alpha in all of this. And for somebody to come along with a product that he basically bankrolled for a long time and to steal his crown is not acceptable. And I think that's pretty much what's on the line here. It's not about money. I mean, 134 billion, like nobody is getting that much in damages. The thing that will happen will be somebody will come out on top and will be named or seen as the new alpha. The worst thing that would happen is that OpenAI would suddenly not be able to pay its bills. Now, that is a fast track to the AI bubble popping.
Now, so you've said the AI bubble popping. That's interesting. When do you think we might have a result in this case? Is it going to be something that can drag on for years? Or is it something that is going to happen like in the near to medium futures in the next couple of weeks or months?
We've got a couple of weeks, right, before case V1 is settled. There's a nine-person jury, of which you remember we had there was difficulty selecting a jury because the jury either doesn't like AI or doesn't like Altman and Musk.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, sorry, these guys are jerks. I can't. I just can't. So there will be the verdict of the jury, but there will also be the verdict of the judge, and the judge will decide what kind of sanction there will be. And of course, this will spiral into a series of appeals and counter appeals and all that kind of thing. So this is, as with Commission Demand, it's round one, and that's it. It's almost a curiosity verdict to see who will side with who.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still in the let them fight territory because both guys can afford it.
Do you know what? Because I was looking at the case and it was all about, control and money and who's doing the right thing and whatever. I think you've actually summed it up, and it's an alpha male. Who's the alpha male? Sam or Elon? Who's the man? I think that's what that case is actually all about. But the danger of if Sam Altman was to lose and a massive multi-$100 billion hole was to be blown into OpenAI, I think that could have a catastrophic effect on all of AI. Interesting. My God, you're giving me food for thought. I'm going to go around for the rest of the day now worrying. Thanks to you, Niall Kitson. Thank you. Also in the news this week, Apple are kind of, when it comes to logistics and supply chains, nobody does it better than Apple. They're now looking at chip production with people other than the Taiwan heads, TSMC.
Yeah, I look at this as a fairly classic Tim Cook move, because Tim Cook, as we know, came from the logistics and supply chain end of Apple. And as we know, supply chains are under an awful lot of stress thanks to the conflict in the Middle East, which we're still not seeing an end to, despite being told it's going to end, inverted commas, very soon, or in 2 weeks, or, whenever a certain person decides that he's bored. Although he's probably bored already, to be honest. So Apple is looking around and thinking, who else can we work with? Because, if we can't get chips, or if we can't get things that are cheap as chips, you see what I did there? We are in trouble. We will not be able to produce or ship or sell as much hardware as we need to. So hence, Apple is looking around, shaking hands with Intel, whose strategy at one point was to become a manufacturer of chips for other people. They have since reined in on that and decided, hey, we're going back to making our own chips really well. But if Apple showed up with a big bag of money, they would go, your request intrigues us. And of course, Samsung, who are a massive chip maker, also interested in this. So I think, these are both suppliers to, Apple in the recent past that Apple stepped away from to do silicon.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, because they went away from Intel and did the whole Apple silicon thing. So it's kind of a bit weird that now they're going back to Intel.
Yeah. Now, nothing done yet. I'm sure this is all contingent on when the military, when the operation, the excursion, wraps up in the
the
Middle
special
East.
military thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, do you know, just kind of thinking about that and what's going to tip the world into catastrophe, now that you've mentioned that, I think it would be China invading Taiwan, because most of the world's chips are made in Taiwan. So if you think about if China was to invade there, that's going to endanger the entire world's supply of chips, which will then endanger all of the investment that's gone into AI. And then you've got global superpowers all tying it. It's like it's a cluster. I won't finish off that word. It's just a cluster of bad things all happening at the same time.
It's an omni-shambles.
Whoa. Oh, omni-shambles. That's so much better than cluster duck. Duck. Next, final story for this week. The EU, back to them again. And I mentioned it earlier that the EU is trying to get people off American technology, but not just American technology. They're now looking at some of the Chinese people as well, yeah?
We should do a full show on how Europe is disentangling from big tech and the alternatives that are out there, because there are. And I think in the next few years we'll start to see that ramp up. But for years there has been discussion, and more than that, there's been outright bans in the US and the UK for the use of Huawei and ZTE networking equipment. Basically, that these things could be repurposed and used as surveillance devices by the Chinese government, which is something they don't want. So the EU has come out with a recommendation to its member states that it similarly ban the use of Huawei and ZTE networking equipment.
Can I be clear? Is that a recommendation or an instruction?
And therein lies the rub. It is a recommendation at the moment, right? So there's nothing in law. It's just this probably isn't a good move for you guys, and so it makes you sort of think, well, what does that have to do with over here? Can we get something specific? Well, if you are an Air customer, you do indeed use a Huawei modem. So this recommendation potentially could lead to a hefty bill down the road for Air if they have to switch suppliers for their broadband customers.
Oh man, you can just imagine the amount of tech that Huawei and so many other Chinese manufacturers are just involved in. And you know what? You're right. Because some people go around and they'll kind of go, well, I don't buy a Huawei phone because of... But yet, if your broadband at home or in the office could well be going through a Huawei, more than likely is going through a Huawei router. And I'd love to know what Huawei thinks of my internet traffic, because it would be boring as hell. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, this is what's happening. It's kind of like playing whack-a-mole. If it's not Huawei or ZTE, I mean, good luck getting a Huawei phone in your operator of choice. But then you've also got Xiaomi, and you've got Honor, and you've got
Oppo is another one.
Yeah. There are plenty of other brands that you would have to examine. But there you go. So for the moment, Huawei, ZTE, Europe would rather you not use them, but nothing beyond that yet.
Yes, and it's a recommendation for now. Niall, as always, thanks for keeping us up to date with the news.
Delivering Irish tech news since 2006, this is Tech Radio.
The annual Tech Founder Summit will return to Dublin's Mansion House on May 29th as a flagship event for Dublin Tech Week. The event will feature lightning talks from women tech founders and innovators, keynotes from international speakers, sessions on AI and product development, and a programme of facilitated table discussions. During the week, Niall Kitson sat down with Tech Founder Summit Director Maureen Murray to find out more.
Maureen, it's always good to have an origin story when we come to talking about an event and the need for it. Tech Founder has something of an illustrious background as well, in that it came from a different event. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so in terms of Tech Founder, Yeah, I suppose when I think of Tech Founder, I don't think of it like an event. It's very much, Tech Founder is very much a community. And Tech Founder grew out of Tech for Good, which myself and Ellen Moore started. So both of us started Tech for Good Dublin, maybe about 10 years ago. And that was just such an incredible community. There, it was kind of like, we had techies, we had people from the not-for-profit sector. And I suppose what was so incredible, there were so many women. So both of us as organisers were obviously women. And then in terms of the innovators that we showcased, in terms of the entrepreneurs that we showcased who were using tech in a purpose-led way, there were so many women. And I wasn't thinking anything of it. I wasn't so clear, not as I am now on the whole gender lens piece. But other people said to me, "Oh, this is really strange. It's a tech event, and more than half the people in the room are women, and everybody on stage is women. Kind of what's going on? What are you doing differently?" And I suppose that's where kind of Tech Founder kind of morphed from Tech for Good. And also I'd been involved with different women in tech groups. Some of us went to the Web Summit. So, but I suppose it really came across for me because I'm very much a product person. My background is developing products, multi-platform products in the BBC, for example. And I'm passionate about that whole product piece. And the power of technology as a tool. So I was just kind of really conscious that if we as women want to create change in society, in the world, and have impact, that we have to tap into the power of technology and tech. So it was also kind of this whole idea of tech as a tool for almost activism and shaking things up in terms of the status quo that also drove me. So Tech Founder came about from, I suppose, lots of different influences and communities that I was part of at the time. So Tech Founder really, it was one of those kind of moments where it's just like, oh my gosh, there's such a gap. There's such a gap. There's no platform. There's no global cohort or global chapter-based organization focusing on women tech entrepreneurship. There were kind of things like Girls Who Code, Women Who Code, but there was no one at that point was really kind of focusing on how do we get women to start tech businesses? How do we make sure they don't fall off in terms of growing those kind of scalable enterprises that are focusing on tech innovation at the very heart. So yes, a lot of different kind of things collided around 2019, which is when I came up with the stickers. I bought these Tech Founder stickers in the Moo shop, and I kind of bought the domain and but from the beginning, the vision was very, very clear. The mission was very, very clear that this is about supporting women to start and lead tech companies and to do things differently.
So 2019 was an interesting time to actually take off with this initiative. Unfortunately, you had an enforced break in terms of COVID. So tell us how you navigated that.
Yeah, so we launched Tech Founder. So we had like lots of informal launches where we were at the Web Summit in 2019, and we had our stickers and took selfies in the Women in Tech Lounge, and we called that one of our launches. But really, it was that in February 2020, we had our first kind of event, and we were saying, okay, Tech Founder has arrived. Who wants to be part of it? How can we create this change together? Because sort of positioning the problem. The problem is we absolutely need to get more women starting and leading tech companies to solve the problems that women need to be solved for us, and based on our insights, based on our values. So that was in February. Dr. Anya Kerr spoke at it, and Dr. Helen Ziden. We had lots of different kind of women in tech groups as well, like, Vicky from Pie Ladies was there. There were lots of different groups. And that was really kind of us starting out. But yeah, you're right. But then things got quiet. So things went quiet for a few years. And then myself and Vicky Toomey were chatting in 2023. And we were just like, oh my gosh, what is the thing? We were both kind of just reflecting and thinking, what is the thing we want to put our energies in going forwards? And with Vicky, obviously, she's so passionate about kind of women using tech and coding and building with technology. And, I'm hugely passionate about women having impact as entrepreneurs and kind of using tech. And we both really were like, maybe the whole there's something in Tech Founder. I was kind of thinking maybe there's something in Tech Founder to start it up again. And Vicky was like, look, she had conversations over COVID where kind of non-techie people or non-coders were getting stuck where they maybe got some funding to develop a platform, but they didn't have that community around them. They'd never created a product before. So it was very much as well thinking of that, use case of somebody who's never created or launched or shipped a tech platform. How can we kind of support those individuals to do this? So that's really where it kind of came about. And also it was to do with, because I suppose it was coming at the issue of why aren't women getting funded from a different angle? Because again, we hear the stories that women aren't getting the VC funding. We're not getting our share of funding in terms of enterprise entrepreneurial support. And I was hearing the narrative, oh, it's because women aren't coming forwards with tech ideas. So I was kind of like, okay, we want to bust that myth, and we absolutely want to make sure that that women have the support, in terms of creating those kind of tech-driven innovations.
Coming from a product background yourself, I imagine that was a myth you were very keen to dispel.
100%, because, and it's, for myself in terms of when I kind of created my first products, I did a master's in computer science and multimedia systems at Trinity. And then I ended up working in the BBC in London, in Belfast and London, developing these multi-platforms. And of course, for anyone, there's that whole interdisciplinary piece, which is so powerful, to have those different expertise and, the software people with software engineering expertise and, UX designers and amazing, kind of visual designers. It's so important to have those kind of people around you, when you're creating something, when you have that vision piece. But also it's knowing that, like I worked as like a producer or senior producer, so I very much had the product vision. But for that, I didn't end up doing any coding. Do you know what I mean? It was very much having the insights of, being the champion for who was going to use your product, having the vision of what was needed. And that's something that, of course, anybody we all have the potential to do that. And once we know the roadmap, once we have the right community around us. So something that I'm really passionate about is this whole idea that product making and building is for everyone. You don't need to be a coder, you don't need to be a techie. It's that steep learning curve the first time you do it, but once it's basically like anything, once you've kind of gone through it and you kind of, you're on your way then in terms of iterating the product, creating different products, different solutions. So something I'm really passionate about is this whole idea of inclusion in terms of who builds, who creates, who gets to make. And of course now with like AI, with Gen AI, it's incredible how things have changed so rapidly over the last, since the summit last year. So last year we had our summit on the 14th of May, and Barbara McCarthy, who's an amazing, has been a CTO, she's now a CIO in Cool Planet. She was saying, oh, I've just been tinkering around with something called Lovable, and then like roll on a year later, who hasn't heard about it? So it's just things are moving so fast. But if we go back to that our first summit, which we called the bootcamp, that myself and Vicky Toomey Lee hosted and led, that was one of the themes. So I've always been passionate about low code, no code, because I've always seen it, that this could be the pivot point or the thing that changes, that will really open up opportunities for women who are non-coders, because it's one of these gatekeepers. It's kind of like a gate that is put up so often. It's like, oh, you need a coder on your team, or you need a techie on your team if you're going to get funding, if you're going to be taken seriously. But really, that's all changing. So it's such an exciting time. And such an exciting time for women who want to innovate, who want to use tech to really have impact. Because really, everything's possible, and also everything's been kind of ripped up and redrawn out in terms of what it is to build, what it is to kind of create a product. What kind of funding do you need? Can you bootstrap? Do you really need a VC? Like everything's really up for grabs. So it's a really exciting time for women to really create with technology. So the summit is kind of our rallying cry. And last year at the summit, Dr. Trish Scanlon, she was talking about this whole concept of we are the cavalry. And it's this whole idea, like, how can we together move forwards and support each other and all, become the force and become the fuel and become each other's really champions, without thinking, oh, we need funding, or we need VC funding, or we need this, and we do need the funding, and we deserve the funding, but we know the history we've had in terms of women being excluded at the different stages from receiving the funding. So it's kind of like, can we really come up with a different kind of subversive model where we are the cavalry for each other and we support each other?
That is quite the problem, because whenever you go to an event, there is a sense that, there's networking, but it can be quite a shallow connection that you might only hear from somebody again if they want money off you, as opposed to if they want to, sit down and have a coffee and maybe hash out an idea, or just go, look, I just want to keep up with you and see how you're doing. Has that been the kind of experience that Tech Founder has delivered in comparison with other events?
Yes, I think it's very different because I said we're not an event as such. We have the summit every year, but that's almost like by accident rather than design, that has really kind of taken off with such momentum. So from the beginning, we were thinking to ourselves, how can we grow a community from the initial event? And we set up a WhatsApp group, because that seemed to be just an easy way to get that started. But things have really moved on. We now have our own platform called The Collective. So Tech Founder has a platform. And this year, everybody who attends our Tech Founder Summit on the 29th of May, as part of Dublin Tech Week, they'll also get access to this platform, which will be also for the attendees. So we've got a bit of a joke. So the tagline this year is "Welcome to the Tech Noosphere" rather than the manosphere. But it's this whole idea, like, how can we do tech differently? How can we do tech that is collaborative, that is matriarchal rather than patriarchal, that is about inclusion, where there's where it's not about ego, it's about, insight. And as part of it, we will have our online space, which will be the Tech Noosphere on the Tech Founder platform. And everybody who attends and participates in the Tech Founder Summit this year, they will be part of that online space as well, where the conversations can continue, where the connections can continue. Because it's really, how can we move from, it's never been about talking, it's always been about real kind of product insights, sharing really practical tips in terms of how you create and build and ship products. But it's also like, how can we even do it in a more innate with even more impact? So I think that's what we're experimenting with this year, where we will have that online space as well.
Just a kind of a note to step away, I suppose, from that sort of woman-centric space. Do you find members or attendees have come out with sort of an appreciation, perhaps, of, okay, here's how I can actually get the best out of working with men in the community? If there's a level of expertise over here, this is how I can actually approach someone and still, not feel, I suppose, for want of a better term, condescended to or threatened or be talked down to. Because that seems to me to be a problem women have to deal with quite a bit.
Yeah, so from the beginning, I said we had 3 themes. So one theme was around low code, no code, how we can harness that in terms of really kind of rapidly building, rapidly prototyping for non-coders. Another theme was around how do we effectively manage tech teams? How do we work with techies and coders and software engineers if we've never worked with them before? And that piece is, yes, some of it's about, kind of program management kind of things, like in terms of being very clear in scope and really kind of managing that communication piece and not just handing over a budget to some agency and thinking they're going to do something amazing. You know what I mean? And 6 months later, you get something back and you're like, oh, that's not what I had in mind. But it's this idea of being very involved in the whole granularity of building and making a product, and it being a collaboration, so that it's not like you're handing over control or you're handing over the vision to a tech team, if that tech team is male or female or whatever. It's this idea that you're part of a collaborative group with you as that woman founder who's maybe never created a product before. You can still be that vision leader within that product team, because you're the one who has the insights, you're the one who has the whole business strategy, you've done all the work, and you know where this is all going and why it's being developed in a certain way. So some of it is also about those kind of product management type skills almost, So for people who've never created a digital product or an AI product before, what is their role within this kind of collaborative space where you will be working with different professionals or volunteers or fractional CTOs or, whoever, people who are helping? How do you navigate that where that you have a position of leadership within it?
And for anyone looking to attend the summit, what exactly can they expect on the day?
Yes, what they can expect is high energy. It's a high energy day. The inspiration really comes from the incredible founders, incredible women tech leaders, those who are actually building. So it's a very positive day. It's very positive energy because it's all about, tech is actually a cause for optimism, because there's so much we can do with it, if it's harnessed in the right way with the right values. And focusing on that whole kind of impact piece as well. So it's hugely inspirational, lots of opportunities to collaborate, lots of opportunities to have your say, to kind of reflect. Incredible. We have incredible women tech leaders and women tech entrepreneurs in Ireland, people like Dr. Anya Kerr, who's exited serial companies, people like Anya Dan. So we've incredible people locally. But we've also got, it's great because Tech Founders has become this global platform and this global community. And lots of our friends are also coming over to participate and to speak. People like Lada Seti, who's exited. She's a serial tech entrepreneur from Silicon Valley, who's now an investor. So she's hugely supportive to women founders at earlier stages. We've got Catherine Gray, who created this whole she calls it a movement, which is this whole movement around women getting funding called Show Her the Money. She'll be there. She's coming over especially. We've got Erica Aquino, who's another incredible angel investor. She's never been to Ireland, so she wants to have a pint when she gets here. So she's coming as well. And so it's really those connections that are so powerful. And people have been coming to the Tech Founder Summit as a celebration for the last 4 years. So it's incredible to map their journey as well. So like last year, we're saying, so where were you 3 years ago? Where are you now? And it's just so inspirational in terms of the progress that can be made over those years when you stick at something. So a lot about it is, keep going. The messages for any entrepreneurs and tech entrepreneurs out there and women is keep going. And it's absolutely, we are the cavalry. We'll inspire and we'll support and we'll back each other.
And that was Niall Kitson chatting with Tech Founder Director Maureen Murray. You can find out more at the website, which is techfounder.com. That is tech, FOUND, her.com. And that link of always in the show description for you.
This is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
That's it for our show this week. Do check out some of the stories that we have online. We've already mentioned the breaking story with Commissioner Mann versus the world of tech. What else have we got in there now?
Yeah, we have a new Chief Development Officer at Techies Go Green, a multi-million euro project looking at how to make computers act more like human brains, and how AI is changing the way millennials and Gen Z shops online.
You'll find those and more online at techessential.ie. We're back again next Friday, of course, with a brand new show. In the meantime, please do share our podcast with a friend who's into tech and what's going on here in Ireland and around the world. Just tell them to search for Tech Radio Ireland, wherever they get their podcasts. Until next time, from myself, Dusty Rhodes, and from Niall Kitson, have a fantastic weekend. Take care.
Remember, you can get the latest Irish tech news with hourly updates, daily newsletters, and more at our website, techcentral.ie. Share the knowledge and invite a friend to listen. Search Apple, Spotify, or YouTube for Tech Radio Ireland, or listen with RTE Radio 1 Extra. Tech Radio is produced by dustpod.io for techcentral.ie. From me, Artemis, live long and prosper.